name is Tulu Taiwo and I'm from Pint of Science Nottingham. I'm here with Professor Peter Blanchfield, who is a Professor of Computer Science here at Nottingham University. And we're here to ask you a couple of questions, so we'll just get straight into it. So what made you become interested in computer science? Where did it all begin?
As a subject, I'm not sure. I kind of predate computer science as a real subject in universities. I'm quite old now. And when I was a kid, there certainly weren't computers. Computers were imaginary things that people had. But I was dead keen on science in general. I wanted to do science, and so I went to university to study science. The university I went to was very open in what you could study. So I've been a computer scientist for 15 years now. But basically I'm an applications person, so I make things that do good for people.
It's quite a journey, yeah. I mean, you've gone through so many different areas there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you sort of looking at computer science and sort of a human side of computer science and how it can be applied. So what does your research, how relevant is it in society today?
In society today, well, I happen to be very fortunate. We do a lot of work with medical school, and I've been working on therapeutic use of computer games for treating mental illness in children. That's quite a sort of up-and-coming area at the moment, not just with children but with adults as well. One of the things about games is that children own games and adults don't. So when you're in therapy, you usually feel of yourself down compared to your therapist. Your therapist is up here, you're down here, and it's hard to communicate. But when they play games, the children come up here, at least, if not up here, because the children play games. They know how to play games. And now they can teach their therapist a thing or two. And that helps them to come out of themselves and get to talking to the therapist. What I'll be talking about at the Pint of Science is the work we're doing on correcting children's eyesight using stereo games. So some work started here a number of years ago in one of our computer university departments, and now we're taking it to the actual applied level where we're going out, and it'll start going into children's homes this summer, being used to treat them at home, to gather information on them, to find out how their eyesight is doing, to feed that back to the ophthalmologists who will be working with them to try and correct their eyesight.
I really like the way your research is really geared towards helping people, and it's got the applications of it must be absolutely massive. So what would you consider as the ultimate recognition for your work?
The ultimate recognition for my work? I suppose the main thing I'm concerned about is that people get well. People get well. I remember a young person that we were treating, and he played our game, and it helped him to understand something. And after that, he went with his therapist. He went through the whole idea of what we've been doing. And this kid had been in therapy for years, had a really bad background at home, but had become conduct disordered, was not really getting it, and needed that thing that took him over the hill, that helped him to recognise what, and this playing our game just took him that bit over there, and as a result he's now no longer in therapy, he's no longer in exclusion unit, he's back in a normal classroom, a healthy young person.
So it's a common misconception that a lot of people think IT and computer science are the same thing.
Right.
For a lot of people growing up in England, learning ICT at school. Are you able to sort of explain sort of the differences or indeed the similarities between the two?
Yeah. Well, one of the big attempts the government has made in the last few years has been to try and get us to be able to teach computing at school rather than ICT. So you'll find over the next few years people might understand a bit more about what computing is about. But computer science is deeper than that because it looks at, one end of our building, they're looking at fundamental computer programming languages, how you make languages, how you identify new languages, what's missing in languages and how should they be used. At the other end of our building, we have people who are scheduling flights in and out of Heathrow. Okay? So you've gone from the very applied
Yeah.
to the, okay, but up at this end, you've got something called AI happening, artificial intelligence. So that's really part of computer science rather than IT. IT is basically information technology, stuff that you would use to do jobs.
I think for many of us, we use computers in our day-to-day lives, but when we sort of go into more of the detail of that computing, you know, it's often seen as quite scary.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people that often view that, maybe from a certain age or demographic, that might view sort of the world of computing?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because, you know, people talk about the this generation as being the natural computing generation, the people who are, by nature, you've had computers since you were born. Yeah, computers have been around, whereas people in my generation, as I said to you before we started talking just now, I didn't get computers until I was at university. You know, that's the first time I met a real computer face to face. And so they think, well, this generation should be natural users of computers, but they're not. They're two. It seems to me that there are two groups of people, one who understand how they work inside and one who don't. Now, I don't think it's impossible for you to learn how it works inside, but there are things in your life that make it less point you learning that than you think, than the advantage you think it could have. You know, you may think, oh, I'd be better at using some IT if I knew a bit more about how computers worked. And that's true, but it's not worth it for you.
So I guess you can say computer programming is for anyone.
Yes.
You can feed into lots of different
Absolutely.
disciplines, backgrounds.
Yep. I know a guy at the age who took up programming when he was 60, up a mountain in the Philippines, and he taught himself to program at the age of 60. No trouble. Yeah. You just need the need to do it must be greater than the hurdle you have to get over to learn it.
You can catch Professor Peter Blanchfield at the Tech Me Out event, Pint of Science Nottingham. Thank you very much.
Thank you.